Family and friends, along with search and rescue teams, have been looking for Selena Not Afraid in about a 3 to 5 mile radius.
Selena Not Afraid was last seen around 2 o'clock on Wednesday at the eastbound.
She was being transphobic? That makes sense. Let's watch a story that doesn't get the same kind of like broad media coverage.
I-90 rest area between Billings and Hardin.
Searchers have been looking for Not Afraid since New Year's Day when she was last.
Radio check, radio check.
Selena Not Afraid disappeared from a rest stop on New Year's Day in Montana's Bighorn County.
It's getting really cold. I want her home.
9 days later, and community-led search teams were still looking for the first clue that might lead them to her.
So we know our...
I'm sure you know this, but Indigenous women going missing has been a crisis for a really long time. Yeah, no, I do know.
Today, we're looking for any sign of Selena, anything out of the ordinary. You know the drill. You guys been doing it, so.
Bro, these dudes are like 8 people, by the way. Like 8 fucking people. Like versus, you know, all this other shit. I gotta say, Twitch hosting.
This is Beartooth.
Beartooth?
Yeah.
How are you, buddy? We'll find our girl.
Okay.
Selena Not Afraid's case is an example of what Native women face. They are almost 3 times more likely to experience sexual violence compared to white women. And homicide is the 4th leading cause of death for those under 20.
Jesus.
And the problems often continue even after death. According to a 2019 report, approximately half of all cases involving murdered Indigenous women in Montana have been misclassified for causes like suicide, overdose, or exposure.
Been on Bugsy, Teddy and his wife and their baby Little Light, Mikey Plainbowl, Garrett, our current active search right now, Hub Williamson, Bonnie 3 Irons, 2017, we recovered her. The next one was Henny Scott. Last year we recovered her. Casera stops at Pretty Places. She was found, I believe, by a deputy in town in somebody's yard. And now our recent active search is Selena. In all the previous cases that I've been involved with, where the situation is like this here, it's always been a recovery. It's never been a happy ending.
Where is Selena?
The people who are saying like, you know, Indigenous names are really cool. Yes. But also another thing I was going to mention is another way that like we completely fucking avoid even talking about Indigenous people, you know, America's other big sin aside from slavery is of course the genocide of Indigenous people. And this was another thing that I like was a little bit frustrated by, but like, dude, this is like, for example, this is cool as fuck. Quanah Chasing Horse is a model that was also at the Met Gala that got no fucking coverage whatsoever, like such little fucking coverage. And these are the actual opportunities that, or these are the actual like cool things that the Met Gala could do, that they do sometimes do, but the media rarely ever focuses on. And her outfit was sick as fuck. Anyway, let's keep going. As someone of a native descent, it meant a lot to me seeing Chasing Horse at the Met Gala, and I only heard about it from my friends who watched.
Where is she? Where's my grandbaby?
Native Americans make up 6.7% of Montana's population, but account for 26% of missing person reports. And while local officials claim that causes for these deaths and disappearances are varied, from drug trafficking to domestic violence, the one thing they all have in common is that they take place in a jurisdictional minefield. Depending on where someone is reported missing or where a victim is found, it could fall to either state, federal, or tribal authorities to investigate. And with that many intersecting agencies, there are plenty of cracks for these cases to fall through.
An Indian reservation, for all intents and purposes, is a sovereign nation. It is subject to completely different laws, governing bodies. They're like a country within a country. So a Bighorn County deputy can show up on a tribal member's doorstep on the reservation, and that tribal member can say, you have no right to be here, you have no jurisdiction here, it can be very difficult.
Responsibility might fall with the county sheriff's department, officers from the Federal Bureau of Indian Affairs, or the tribal police. Sometimes the FBI also steps in. There are both too many agencies jockeying for authority and not enough resources to go around. In late 2019, the Crow tribe declared a state of emergency. Tribal Chairman AJ Not Afraid cited a list of issues, including the BIA's lack of officers and failure to address the murdered and missing women crisis. The Crow Reservation is roughly the size of Connecticut, but for years has only had 5 BIA officers. Recently, the tribe assembled its own sovereign police force, independent from the BIA.
We're between two communities right now. We currently have no radio service. We have no cell phone service. We have no ways, unless we had a sat phone, we wouldn't have any way to communicate with anybody. And that contributes. It's very wide open. It's very desolate out here. The I-90 corridor.
For the record, it's not just like indigenous protesters saying like, we don't want fucking infrastructure. It's that the government doesn't give a fuck. One of the greatest examples of this is literally areas of Canada that are so desolate and so isolated from the rest of the country that, you know, food is like impossible to reach. You literally have to fucking fly it in. There's no roads leading up to it. There's nothing. There's no infrastructure. None of it. Yeah. None of it. I don't know how to say it correctly. Of course, one of the larger problems there is zero fucking clean drinking water, no working functional sewage system. Like a lot of these problems, non-avut. A lot of these problems exist in the tribal land, the indigenous land that they offered back to First Nations, indigenous people. Also, remember, and I have to repeat this, remember how the cop was talking about, oh, we don't have fucking jurisdiction on reserves? Like on Native American reserves? Yeah, what happens when you're building a pipeline, though? Because when you're building a pipeline, all of a sudden, there is no problems with jurisdiction, okay? So just remember that. Like, whenever they're talking about, like, fucking solving cases and whatnot, and that guy seems like a nice person. I can't believe I'm saying this, but, like, he seems like a well-intentioned person. Maybe he's an asshole. I don't know. But where's that fucking jurisdiction when it comes to, like, legitimate grievances that indigenous protesters have when you're fucking putting a pipeline through indigenous territory? What's up with that? It's so weird because they don't have a problem enforcing eminent domain and also every kind of fucking jurisdiction all of a sudden when they're beating the living shit out of indigenous water protectors. Like, just absolutely fucking destroying them. Hey, brother, we put pipelines through sovereign countries too. That doesn't make it right.
Or anybody that's going to Denver, going to South Dakota, trying to get to the West Coast, it all travels right through here for the most part. So
yes, DAPL wasn't technically on indigenous land, but crossed their water source. Yes. Yeah, you also know that the Dakota Access Pipeline originally was not supposed to cross through their water source, but instead through a fucking town that was not an indigenous one. And of course, they were like, yeah, we don't want to fuck up our water supply. We don't want to, like, do this. They literally pulled a NIMBY. They pulled a NIMBY and were like, yeah, fuck it. Put it through the fucking natural water supply of the tribes there. So, you know, I do know that, yes.
We get a lot of drug trafficking out on the interstate, and, you know, with the crime, the drug.
I work with a driller from Alaska, 30 years experience, and he says tribe leaders don't give a fuck when money flows. That is, people are going to get mad at me for this, but yes, that is also true. Even with Dakota Access Pipeline, there were some people who legitimately wanted to defend their water for good reason. They were right, by the way, because the Dakota Access Pipeline literally leaked and tainted their water supply, their natural water supply. But also, on top of that, yes, there are tribal leaders that, just like every other fucking situation, want to use their own transportation, and it's not necessarily about, like, environmental protections.
Drugs, the domestic violence, it's all a perfect breeding ground for people to go missing.
So we're going to go ahead and ask everybody if you could come a little bit close. We want to acknowledge all of the families who are here.
In downtown Hardin, a rally for the movement shows that Selena Not Afraid's disappearance is painfully familiar. Families gather to push for answers on their loved ones' suspicious deaths.
Why is it that we are more likely to be raped and murdered than go to college? Why is it that our young girls are just trying to survive? And so there are alarm bells that are ringing. What is going on?
The sheer number of Indigenous women that have been missing or murdered suggests an epidemic, but there isn't a comprehensive data set to confirm that. Desi Rodriguez-Lombert, a sociologist who researches data in the Indigenous communities, is working to quantify the sweep of the problem.
All right. Okay, Sarah stops pretty places. Tribes need to be building their own data sets. Our data systems have been erased and destroyed over centuries of colonization. We have so many cases where our women are being misclassified racially as white, as Black, as Asian, as Latina, and not actually American Indian, and certainly not as citizens of different nations. I know every single one of you here have not had justice for your loved one.
When I reported her missing, nobody helped me. The only response was, maybe she's drinking somewhere. What does that say to our people?
They said Henny was just one of those crazy little girls that would take off. So what?
We would never accept this if, for example, these young girls were non-Indian. But yet here in southeastern Montana, we've accepted that negligence is okay. What is happening with all of these systems that are supposed to be in place to keep people safe?
Rodriguez-Lombert knows this issue firsthand. Her own niece disappeared in August of 2019.
Sarah was last seen alive here in Hardin. She was at a house party with some friends, cousins. It was the summer she turned 18.
Somebody knows something!
Family, friends, and members of the missing and murdered Indigenous women's group held the Justice March for Sarah Stops Pretty Places, whose body was found in Hardin on August 29th.
After 5 days, a body was found. She was basically a Jane Doe here in the Bighorn County morgue for days. Finally, the medical examiner in Billings did a dental match, was able to determine that it was her. And so now here we are, 6 months later. Her cause of death has now been declared officially as undetermined. There are no leads.
When it comes to inconsistent investigations and lack of information, Rodriguez-Lombert isn't alone. Many families have been waiting to get answers for years.
My daughter, Allison Highwolf, today would be her 5th year of passing away.
Highwolf was found dead in a motel room in Hardin. There are no leads in her case either.
These people have nothing, okay? Like literally nothing. And the very little fucking, the very little things that they've been given by the American government, if at that, which is like a little bit of fucking land back, is still oftentimes just used to get around like American restrictions and American rules. So tribal leaders will every now and then, you know, in an effort, because they're stuck in a rock and a hard place, in an effort to fucking get in any funds that they can back to their communities, will like sell off land to casinos and, you know, allow other people to operate them. The worst part of all the reward money is community raises people come together, as well as the fact that tribal police can't investigate the white people who come to the res commit these crimes against our women. Yeah.
The BIA officer had told us that we couldn't go see her, that she was already in a morgue. He didn't give me very much information, just the fact that there was a motel fire and she was there, and she was there by herself. They determined it smoke inhalation and undetermined. I feel my heart, deeply in my heart, that she was murdered, that my daughter was murdered. It's not recognized by the Sheriff's Department in Hardin, Montana. We ask questions and they've never been answered.
Tonight, the search for Selena Not Afraid has come to a sad end. Her body discovered less than a mile away from where she disappeared.
Why was she not found sooner? Well, authorities in the area say that this place is big country and things can go unnoticed.
Somehow, this young woman who is otherwise healthy turns up dead in a sagebrush on her own accord. Maybe there's nobody that we can get for murder, but there is something that led to this young woman, to her dying and her body being found on the side of the road in a sagebrush.
If the tribe is able to take back over its law enforcement, increase its numbers, and do a better job of taking care of its own, of the reservation, I believe that it'll have an immediate.
Bro, this motherfucker will then cry about defund the police movement. You know what I mean? Like, on the one hand, he's like, oh, wow, the tribe is not doing enough to fucking take care of itself. But then simultaneously, he's like, well, what do they have? They have nothing. How are they going to take care of themselves, dude? They got nothing. What are they supposed to do? They got nothing. They're fucked by the jurisdiction because, they have a problem with, like, crossing over and prosecuting. Do they, can tribal cops fucking prosecute? Can they even prosecute like U.S. citizens? Oh, he's a part of the tribal police?
Impact on making things better.
There's also been
what are you
national
supposed to
recognition
do?
of the problem.
Is it just always the FBI? It has to be the FBI?
In October, President Trump signed 2 bills into law, the Not Invisible Act and Savannah's Act, named for Savannah LaFontaine Greywind, a 22-year-old Spirit Lake Nation woman who was found murdered in 2017. The laws direct the Department of Justice to create more coordinated law enforcement and data collection in response to missing Indigenous persons.
We want to respect tribal sovereignty and the tribe's ability to maintain their authority and their public safety structure the way they'd like to maintain it. But it also adds complication, and so what we need to do and what's being done at the national level will be to try to figure out ways that even though we have different jurisdictions involved, to be sure they work together more fluidly and more seamlessly so that responses can come quicker and can hopefully be more effective.
We are so used to our people's deaths being classified as exposure, suicide, accidents, and not actually being investigated as suspicious. There's something happening here.
By the way, this is the same thing as like when this is also very similar to trans sex workers being murdered and kidnapped, and the repercussions like not being as severe. And that is because these are forgotten people, okay? These are people that are at the intersection of marginalization. So they get hit by like multiple different avenues of marginalization. And also their population size is not that large. So like, the 16 girls going missing in a small community like that, a smaller community like that is fucking gigantic. You know what I mean? It's a fucking huge per capita number. Same with trans people too. And you don't get the same kind of round-the-clock coverage from Fox News or any coverage at all for the most part outside of like some local media.
We are sovereign nations that exist within another sovereign nation. So there's complexities there in terms of whose sovereignty reigns, but ultimately we have self-determination. Bighorn County is the focal point of the MMIW work that we are doing right now in Montana because we have lost so many women recently. We're losing women too frequently here in this small part of Montana. I'm a social demographer, so I'm trained in both sociology and demography. And what I do is I try to think through ways to partner with Native communities and tribal nations to build and reclaim our data systems.
Because we have to do what we can do for each other.
In the missing
CNN said something. Oh, I do remember this. White, Latino, black, something else, Asian. Hey, some other stuff.
Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women database. We have, all sorts of different entries, that we're collecting, variables.
Do we not send Breitbart links? We already did look at I read the whole Breitbart article, chat. I read the entire article. It was hilarious. You missed it.
That we're collecting on these cases. One of the biggest flags that we found is that Bighorn County has one of the highest numbers across the country of any county. There's a puzzle here. There are questions that need answered. And if anything, I'm a researcher, and this is in my own backyard. We live in the data age right now. Everything about us is being collected, whether we like it or not. Personally, I think as a critical data scholar, I think that's very wrong. I think it's also very wrong that our native nations are so removed from that nexus of kind of data power. There's so much being collected on us, but not by us and for us. And we need the data. The numbers are what drive policy. The numbers are what drive investment. If we're not being counted, or if we're being misclassified, or if the data aren't in our control, or we don't have access to it, then we have these various layers of continued kind of barriers to self-determination. That self-determination extends to data. It has to extend to data. And so now tribes are facing, this kind of new frontier. How do they build sovereign data systems? How do they leverage?
By the way, it's not always just an attack on tribal people from outside of the tribe either. Like many of you have pointed this out. But yes, of course, they're like these are communities that have been devastated through the worst kind of systemic oppression. And of course, there's a lot of problems with drugs and alcohol within the community as well. So there is some violence within the community as well, on top of everything else. Okay?
Partnerships and linkages with all these existing data sets that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's called genocide. It's true. It is.
How do they build these data systems to drive their own policies, to keep their people safe, to ensure that their children have a better future? And so that, to me, is this exciting new data frontier for American Indians and Alaska Natives and for our tribal nations.
But of course, ultimately, like, that's nothing. And even that, in and of itself, is absolutely a byproduct of outside influences and outside systemic violence that indigenous communities are subjected to. Sorry. So, Squirrel posted a really powerful indigenous protester accepting Marlon Brando's Oscar.
I learned a great deal from a director named Ingmar Bergman. Often to be most eloquent is to be silent.
You're quite right. The film we've just seen has said it all. I think we should say that those nominated for the best performance by an actor are
Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
Michael Caine in Sleuth.
Okay, so Marlon Brando wins.
Marlon Brando and the accepting the award for Marlon Brando and The Godfather, Miss Sacheen Littlefeather.
Hello, my name is Sacheen Littlefeather. I'm Apache, and I'm president of the National Native American Affirmative Image Committee. I'm representing Marlon Brando this evening, and he has asked me to tell you in a very long speech, which I cannot share with you presently because of time, but I will be glad to share with the press afterwards, that he very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award. And the reasons for this being are the treatment of American Indians today by the film industry. Excuse me.
They're fucking booing her, dude. Hey, guess what? They booed fucking, what's his name, too? I mean, this is on the thread itself. Just like they fucking booed, Michael Moore. They always do this.
And on television, in movie
John Wayne wanted to march backstage and beat the shit out of her, apparently. Wow, what a fucking man, dude.
reruns, and also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee. I beg at this time that I have not intruded upon this evening, and that we will, in the future, our hearts and our understandings will meet with love and generosity. Thank you on behalf of Marlon Brando.
For the record, these are examples of, oh, fuck yeah, Channel 5 Chet Hanks is finally live. Let's go. Let's fucking go, dude. Anyway, these were examples that Squirrel was using as, like, positive protest. Using the power of your platform, using the power of these, like, incredibly popular liberal institutions to genuinely make a mark. To genuinely engage in an act of honest protest that goes beyond performative activism, that goes beyond saying things that are not, or saying things or doing things that are not powerless or inherently unthreatening to those at the centers of power. And Tax the Rich wearing a Tax the Rich dress is not that. And that's the reality. That is the reality. And I listen, I fucking, I've told you guys before, like, I love AOC, but I think she's doing a great job as a legislator. She could be doing better, but, you know, ultimately she's great. I think she does an even better job with respect to raising funds and also doing mutual aid and doing right by her constituents. That's why she's incredibly popular in her. That's why Hollywood bought house in Exploitation Town. What? There is, please point to me any part of America that is not Exploitation Town, dumbass. What a fucking idiotic take that was, dude. Wow. Yeah, guess what? Also, exploited fucking laborers built the house too. And the roads that I fucking use. Jesus Christ, 9-month subscriber brain rot once again. Holy fuck. Fuck me, dude. How? Why is AOC's dress performative and not this? Because wearing a dress that just says tax the rich is not like, you have defanged your own rhetoric. You have defanged your own movement. You have an opportunity at the podium to make a fucking statement as a politician that goes far beyond just like doing the least threatening, most performative thing you can. How do you not see the difference between Marlon Brando refusing to accept the fucking Oscar and sending an indigenous person in his stead to refuse the Oscar, or Michael Moore standing up there and literally fucking getting booed by an entire crowd for saying lies are the reason why we're going to war? You are lying, George W. Bush, at a time when fucking imperialist fervor is like overtaken America, and that Hollywood as a liberal institution is totally fucking invested in that same kind of imperialist, bloodthirsty fervor that it's whipping up in a frenzy to justify America's imperialist endeavors. Like, how can you not see the difference between those kinds of sentiments and getting widespread praise and celebration from the liberal media? Okay? That's the difference. One gets you round the clock, wall-to-wall positive coverage from liberal wine moms on CNN and whatnot, because it's not a threatening act. The other is not. The other actually gets you. The other has repercussions even. And let me tell you something else. Like, look, it's even with Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was not a positive thing that you could advocate for. Like, it was not seen as like acceptable. Many of you probably came to your progressive understandings during the BLM protests in the aftermath of George Floyd. What would be threatening about refusing an award? Are you fucking kidding me? If you can't understand that, I don't know how to fucking tell you, dude. I literally don't know what to tell you about, like, refusing to accept and saying fuck the Academy. Refusing to accept an Oscar, the highest fucking award. You're directly damning the institution itself. It is an act of disruption. It is an act to say, like, fuck you. Y'all are crazy. That is when you use your power for good. It's actually not a big deal. Refusing an award is a footnote, not disruption. Dude, I'm sorry, man. You guys are so fucking stupid. Like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Yeah, if Marlon Brando is not literally murdering Hollywood executives in cold blood, he's not doing an act of radical, violent, disruptive, revolutionary action. I got it, dude. Thank you, Twitch chatter, for explaining to me that something is not radical enough for you, a Twitch chatter who eats fucking chicken tendies all day and thinks that radical actions are just tweeting about dumb shit and doing a fucking Chomsky meme as your name. God damn it, dude. You have never had a fucking fraction of power or a fraction of fucking privilege that you've tried to use for good. That's why you don't understand it, okay? I think putting yourself out there in a moment when you have everything to fucking lose and literally putting yourself out there in a way that will draw a lot of fucking ire from those around you who will fucking hate you and despise you is pretty significant. It's the best possible kind of performative activism you can do in that position. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my Lord. And nothing, no. Does one fancy night make all of AOC's good work useless? No. I did not say that. I actually specifically mentioned numerous times that I don't give a fuck that she went to the Met Gala and that overall her overall body of work is still good and she's a force for positive change. Shut the fuck up. God damn. Don't even have a Twitter. It was good, but disruption is a specific term. It is a disruption. It is disruptive. When you have one of the largest fucking podiums on the planet and when you have the main stage and you use that opportunity to tear down an institution rather than go along with it with the classic fucking, oh yeah, thank you mom and dad for giving me this award or whatever the fuck, you are being disruptive, okay? That's one of the better things you can do as a famous person. Jesus fucking Christ. I literally forgot to run the ad, dude. Or did I not? Or did I? I think I actually forgot to run the ad. I got so mad. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up right now. Did I? Oh my fucking God, dude. No, I ran it. We're good. Man, it wasn't disruptive. Yeah, right. Dude, Google trend searches for tax the rich are not indicative of fucking disruption. Shut the fuck up. Literally, all the negative coverage is also a consequence of tax the rich. Like, that increases the trend. You understand that, right? Please, don't come in here with some fucking idiotic takes. Jesus Christ. You got it, dude. You fucking own me. I still like AOC. You're being fucking ridiculous. You're engaging in like fanfare for no reason. No critical thinking. None of that. Google Trends doesn't mean people searching tax the rich. It means mentions of tax the rich increased. Debate lords hate you for saying this, but then turn around and give Jean-Paul Sartre a W for declining the Nobel Prize. Dude, stop sending me this fucking Sam Hyde effect video. Oh my fucking God, dude. Shut the fuck up, dude. I don't give a fuck about your fucking pathetic loser Sam Hyde video. Where is that chatter? I'm gonna ban him. I need to find this fucking dumbass. I'm yelling at another chatter who's like also talking about Sam HasanAbi Hyde. Where is it?
Hasan, come out. Show the people. You look like the slow kid in the phys ed class, dude. You look like you're about to get destroyed in dodgeball.